What's going on, y'all? Just had a little bit of a breakthrough in terms of understanding both how to explain it in such a way that it makes sense to myself and hopefully to others, and also in terms of the experience of what it feels like so that I can repeat it and make it my own and then be able to reliably use it in warm-up, practice, and ultimately in performance. The concept is this: thinking and feeling down and back, especially as you are ascending in the range. What I realized that this keeps you from doing is overspacing. So a while back, I was studying with a really famous tenor and also famous teacher, Neil Shikoff. And one of the things that he would say, I love that I'm wearing a ring now because he would always do this. He would knock his ring on the piano or on the stand and be like, hey, let's get some ring in the sound. But one thing that he would always say to me that I was like, what does that mean? He would say, you're overspacing. Overspacing, especially as I'm ascending. And now, studying with here in the city with my current teacher, Karen Morelia, she helped me to find this sensation that was the opposite of overspacing. What overspacing means is that as you ascend, right, especially for me, a baritone of some kind or another, some days a bass baritone, who knows? As you ascend, especially up through the passaggio and into the high notes, what we tend to do, let's just blame it on misunderstanding what some teachers are telling us to do, or it's expressly what some teachers are telling us to do, is to create space by raising the soft palate, for example. You want to do this eventually, but it is not the first lever that you pull when you are getting up into that top range or when you are navigating through the passaggio. The reason that you don't want to create this space too soon, and what Neil was pointing out is, hey, you're overspacing. The reason why this is a problem is because if nothing else, it dampens your sound, but then it also creates problems for intonation. So I never had a problem with my ear, but what I had a problem with was matching what I heard and what was coming out of my mouth. People would for years be like, hey, you're kind of sharp. And I'm like, I don't hear sharp and I don't think I'm singing sharp. What's going on? What was going on is that I was overspacing. And so sharp, what it means, provided that your fundamental tone is correct, it just means that there's too many overtones. In the same way, flat means that there's not enough. So you can have the correct fundamental tone, but you need to make sure that you have the right amount of overtones in order to, not too much, not too little, Goldilocks, in order to be not just in tune, but also in tune and have the singers form it. That acoustic phenomenon by which singers can be heard without a microphone over a full orchestra in the back of the house. And all of the colors of your voice can be heard, and you can express fully as you want. So it doesn't have to be loud, it doesn't have to be soft, it doesn't have to be this or that. You can do whatever you want, but you gotta have that in place in order to be able to have that freedom, that expressivity. So I'm practicing these pieces, this one in particular, Opus 6, number 6 by Tchaikovsky, in preparation for a little thing that I'm gonna be doing here in the city in a couple months. And there is this one, and there's two intervals in particular that I'm referring to that clicked this into my brain. And when I experienced for the first time with Karen that sensation of, oh, I'm not overspacing, but I'm still in tune and I've still got the formant, what it felt like to me was like a tube of toothpaste all rolled up, and then you're just squeezing it out, because I no longer had all this space up here for it to just kind of gush out. Space is lowered, it's not overspaced, so it's just being pressed out. And I try to replicate that feeling as best I can, especially practicing on my own. It's really important that we are able to recreate these sensations in the way that we want to on our own, independent of having a teacher or second set of ears there. Because we need to be learning how to fish. We cannot just be relied on getting taught fish. A key part of this is being able to identify when that happens and then explain to yourself in your own language so that it makes sense to you. This is what I do for myself to help retain and develop and and iterate on my learnings, but also it's what I encourage all of my clients and students to do, whether in executive voice work or whether it's in direct singing work. Doesn't matter that it makes sense to me so long as it makes sense to you. So, as I'm in this practice room trying to get these two intervals to feel correctly, I started thinking, well, okay, let me think about down and back, because that's what Karen and I have been working on lately. And then I started thinking about that down and back sensation, and lo and behold, I got that same toothpaste sensation, and I was like, that's it. That is why you think down and back, because it prevents you from overspacing. If you don't have anything to balance out the temptation, whether it's a natural temptation or whether it is something that you've been trained to do, if you don't and you're trying to unlearn it, if you don't have anything to balance that out, good luck. If you have something to balance that out that's a sensation that you're going for, okay, that's a little bit better. But if you have that sensation that you're going for and a cue to balance that out, then you're cooking with gas. So let's see what this sounds like. Let's start from that phrase before. I'm going to go absent the Russian because I'm still working on that. That's not thinking about anything. That's just letting that, and that's maybe a little bit overspaced. So now if I think down and back and go for that toothpaste tube sensation, I get this. There we go, so it starts to get in there. We finally get there. Now I can feel their eyebrows a little bit tight. We don't like that. Now I haven't listened back to that, but you tell me which one sounds better. That's down and back without aiming for that toothpaste sensation, but it feels, I can feel like that's a little bit shouty. But you know what though? Maybe that's okay because we are only at a D flat. That's the one that I like. That's thinking down and back and aiming for that toothpaste sensation. Now let me see if doing that again, I can basically imagine really not letting my soft palate raise at all. Okay, I like that, at least as a point to work from. Now let's go to this F. Not too overspaced. Now let me be consciously thinking about anything that I'm doing well here is because I've trained a lot of this in through relentlessly hammering these concepts into my larynx. So now let me be even more deliberate and really be thinking down and back, aiming for that toothpaste sensation and making sure that there's no soft palate raise. I think on the way down, palate raised a little bit. Felt like I got less palate raised there. And what did I do? What did I feel myself doing while trying to keep that palate from raising? What I felt was lo and behold, more connection, more consistency in my breath pressure. So there's none of this, it's just constant. It's another thing that you really want to get in there, because if that ever goes, maybe the audience won't hear it. Your friends who are singers might hear it, but you will definitely feel it. It's that way of thinking about that old Pavarotti adage. If I don't practice for one day, I can't do an Italian accent. If I don't practice for one day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2 days, my friends know it. If I don't practice for 3 days, my friends know it. So, putting it all together, down and back, aiming for the toothpaste sensation, no allowing of the overspacing, and relentless connection and consistency in the breath. It's especially important when you're going in between those intervals. You want the intervals to be connected, to be born from one another. And nowhere is that more evident in a big interval like this. So, obviously I can't be on stage at Carnegie Hall. And maybe I could, but probably not for this concert, definitely not for my debut there. So let's see. The Russian will be better by then. Too much space. You hear that? Maybe. I felt it. As I evaluate what I was thinking there and what I was experiencing, I got most of the sensation that I was looking for, but my commitment to and my thought ahead of time for the down and back was like 20%. So you remember, down and back, for me, that comes with this expression of like a little bit of a bend, rooting into the ground. Some phlegm. You understand? Just for fun, let's see if I take all the thinking out of it. Space. Better, but I pushed a little bit. If it's not one thing, it's another. What would this be like if it were easy? I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there, but progress. Kaizen, baby. Go forth and speak boldly.